Good evening, you're with ET Now. This is the India Development Debate. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthy joining you from the News Centre in Mumbai. This is a special edition of the India Development Debate. Coming up at 9:30 p.m. is an exclusive interview with Kumar Mangalam Birla on the latest acquisition of Aleris and the future expansion plans of Hindalco. The exclusive conversation coming up at 9:30. Kumar Birla in conversation with ET Now's corporate editor Abhinabad Das. But first up, the big debate tonight. It's the beginning of the King Khan era in Pakistan, and New Delhi is perhaps going to have some sleepless nights. With his political outfit emerging as the single largest party after the general election, the former cricket captain is all set to be anointed as the Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic, and the initial signs are quite ominous. Imran, who's openly declared his allegiance with the Pak armed forces several times, says Kashmir will be the central theme of any peace talks between India and Pakistan. The Pak verdict is sure to pose fresh challenges to the Modi government, as any deterioration in the Indo-Pak relations will give the opposition more ammunition in the run-up to the 2019 general elections. The beginning of the Khan era in Pakistan and what it means to India, that's the topic of debate tonight on the India Development Debate. Joining us on the show, Ambassador Neelam Deo, Director of Gateway House, Shailesh Kumar, Director Asia at Eurasia Group, Raza Ahmed Rumi, journalist and policy analyst, and Maruf Raza, consultant and strategic affairs expert. Thank you all for joining us on the India Development Debate. Let me start off with you, Raza, since you are from Pakistan, to get a view of what the reaction there is. Whose victory is this really? Is it a victory of the Pakistani army, of Imran Khan, or the people of Pakistan?
Well, I think this is a victory for the people of Pakistan. Let's be very clear. In large number, in a large turnout, people have very clearly voted against the incumbents, which were former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. And Imran Khan has been on the scene since 2011. He has been gaining more and more traction within Pakistan, particularly in the urban areas of Pakistan, where people kind of believe in an anti-corruption mantra that he's been selling. And of course, for now, the Pakistan military seems to be okay with him for some time. And, he's been accused of being an establishment's puppet, etc. But let me tell you this much. People who know Imran Khan, I don't claim to know him at all, but people who have followed him, he's a man with his own mind and an independent streak, and he's not the one who's going to be easily manipulated or puppeted by the military once he's in power.
That's the view from Pakistan. Ambassador Neelam Deo, given PMLN's allegation that the ballot was rigged in favor of Imran Khan's party, is there a risk that Pakistan could plunge into deeper political chaos?
I think at least not immediately. The PMLN has really been crushed. Their leader is in jail. They have, however, been together enough to win the provincial assembly elections, and so Shehbaz Khan will still be the Chief Minister of Punjab, which is way the most important part of Pakistan, and he has shown his administrative abilities there. I think in the case of Imran Khan, some things are not very well known because he's certainly charismatic, but he's also a bit of a maverick. And on some things he has been consistent. He has supported the Taliban throughout, he has been critical of the United States, and he has been quite virulent on India.
Oh yes, he is sort of a bit of an unknown animal, and we don't know which way he will react. On some things though, he's been consistent, like you pointed out, including his support of the Taliban, which is what is going to be a cause of concern. Maruf, let me bring you in here. Pakistan has seen before we talk about the India impact and analyze the ramifications of this, let's look at it from Pakistan's point of view. Pakistan has seen a phase of heightened instability over the last few years. Is this outcome in any way going to restore normalcy to Pakistan? Because a stable Pakistan, of course, is in India's best interests.
Well, yes, I agree with you. A stable Pakistan is in India's interest. I don't know if it's in India's best interest. I would argue that, if Pakistan's a bit in turmoil, then the powers that be in Pakistan would be more distracted than creating trouble for India. But anyway, that's a separate issue. I think what's important is that Imran Khan has not only now gained power at the center, but he also has had a traditional hold in the area of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He has also got a certain amount of voting support in main cities like Karachi. So his presence and his party's presence is now pretty much pan-Pakistan and not limited to the so-called AFPAC region as it was in the case in the past. But I think equally important is to understand the kind of people that Imran Khan is going to require to get the support in the National Assembly to push any measures that he might think are appropriate for Pakistan other than what the military and him combine. And I wouldn't say so openly that the military will get him to toe the line, but military and him combined would push ahead in Pakistan's interest, because the military has supported him primarily because they would have always wanted a civilian government, but a civilian government which is pliable, a civilian government which does not look them in the eye, as Nawaz Sharif made the mistake of doing, as Zulfikar Bhutto made the mistake of doing, and Benazir also did to some extent, and we have all seen the kind of fate they have met. So therefore, there is that element about what Imran Khan can do. I think his biggest challenge is not India-Pakistan relations, is to get Pakistan macroeconomic stability, is to make Pakistan get out of a possible debt crisis, and also to address some of the issues that the people in Pakistan also consider very important, such as internal stability.
Sure.
You must understand that there are many groups that are generally at large in Pakistan,
right,
and they need to be brought under some kind of control. We are not just talking of Lashkar-e-Toiba, but a whole lot of Deobandi groups.
Right, that need to be brought under control. I'm glad, Maruf, you brought up the point on Pakistan's economic condition, because I don't think too many people in India perhaps appreciate that. And Shailesh, I want you to come in on that. Pakistan has seen its currency devalued by over 15% since December. The country's state bank has reserves insufficient to cover 2 months of imports. Inflation is on the rise. Current account deficit widened 43% last fiscal. Seems like it's just a matter of time before they knock on the doors of IMF, once again, the second time since 2013. So is this priority going to be economy, or is it going to be India, Kashmir, or, the other things that, some section of the society would want him to focus on?
His priority has to be the economy. It is, as you pointed out, in a very bad situation. And this didn't happen suddenly. It's been happening for the slide at least began over 18 months ago. Even the Pakistani officials will say that they probably should have expected or accepted an IMF program about a year ago. As you noted, the current account deficit is in very, very bad shape. And the last government did absolutely nothing in terms of policies to turn around the trade deficit, which is the biggest driver of the current account deficit. Because of this, the foreign exchange reserves are at an all-time low, and they are on the brink of, not yet, but soon will be on the brink of a balance of payments crisis unless something is done. Now, the problem with Imran Khan is that he hasn't really articulated an economic vision, and he's been a little all over the place. So in his campaign, he had what you could otherwise call a very socialist agenda. But then in the last weeks of the campaign, he announced his manifesto, which looked a lot like Modi's manifesto. It was almost verbatim the same talking points that were used in India. And this is not a very, it's a little bit all over the place in terms of what it is he stands for. But the one good news is that one of the requirements that the IMF will probably put forth is that Pakistan significantly devalue its currency. And what we saw in the last government was an aversion to that. We don't think that Khan will be as averse to that. He may be okay with the currency devaluation. But the bigger question here now becomes China, because China arguably is the bigger driver of this instability, given the amount of loans they flooded Pakistan with. But is Khan willing to go up against China? And I think the answer is going to be no, because China, more than an economic friend, is a strategic friend to the army. And if there's any moves on Khan's part to rein in Chinese investments, which are, in my opinion, bad in the macro long run for Pakistan, the army simply won't allow it. But even in the one place that the civilian government has some autonomy, which is economic policy, you may be on the verge of seeing that curtailed under Khan as well.
Okay, that's an important point you're making. But now let's get to the mood question, really. And Raza, I'm going to start off with you. Imran Khan today spoke about the fact that how this perception is built in India of him being as bad as a Bollywood villain. Is Imran Khan anti-India? How does one separate political rhetoric with what he actually does when he assumes power?
Imran Khan is not anti-India. Imran Khan has been a familiar face in India. He's been very popular in India. Of course, in his political life, he has we have seen him, extol the sort of jihadis here and there, particularly the Afghan Taliban. But I don't think that he is by any means anti-India. I think in his speech today, he very clearly said that he was going to open up dialogue with India, that trade with India was in the best interest of Pakistan as well. So these were very promising statements that he made. Whether he lives up to them is a separate matter, because as we all know, and you know, in Pakistan the military is a big player when it comes to India policy. Without their assent and inclusion in the reframing of national security policy, that change may not occur. However, the good factor is that China, which is currently heavily investing in Pakistan and wants to, build Pakistan's infrastructure as part of its One Belt, One Road initiative, has also emphasized normalization with India. And I do feel that there will be a fresh start, an opening, because the bitter acrimony of Sharif with the military is over now.
Okay, you're saying there'll be a fresh start. Maroof Raza, are you that optimistic? I mean, what impact will Imran Khan's nomination have on Pakistan's relations with India? Contrary to perception, there wasn't a lot of India bashing during the campaign phase. Yes, there were references in the manifesto, which I looked at, but it's not as if his entire campaign was all about India bashing. So what impact do you believe will his taking a charge have on relations with India?
You see, that's the question that's being asked across India all through the day. Even in previous elections of Pakistan, there hasn't been much India bashing. The fact of the matter is that as far as Imran Khan is concerned, he would do well to basically have an arrangement with the military where between him and the military, they come to a consensus on how to engage with India. And it's equally important for people in Delhi and in South Block to be able to understand, A, that you don't look at Pakistan from an Indian prism just because Pakistan has gone ahead with another transfer of power from civilian government to civilian government, and therefore you have a prime minister who will take the call on foreign policy issues, particularly key issues like India-Pakistan relations or China-Pakistan relations or Pakistan's relations with Afghanistan, US or nuclear issues. Those are holy areas and the holy grail that the military guards rather zealously. So Pakistan's Prime Minister is really going to be a facilitator of the process, and those who are obsessed with engaging with Pakistan and its civilian government, more importantly, would be able to kind of flatter themselves by talking to Imran Khan. But it's really the men in the khaki who will finally draw the red lines as to how much Imran Khan can give or not give. But what is important is to be able to understand that what is it that you can engage Imran Khan's attention with. Previous prime ministers of Pakistan have been known to have very little attention span when it comes to national security issue. And the example of Nawaz Sharif is only too important because, records now reveal that his ability to have very little attention for matters of detail before Musharraf launched the Kargil adventure, which led to what is today being celebrated in India as the end of the Kargil conflict, is a case in point. So I think Imran Khan would do well to further the so-called civilian aspects of India-Pakistan relations, and whether New Delhi would like to start a fresh chapter will really depend on the kind of company that Imran Khan keeps. Please understand that he may resort to taking the support of a whole lot of right-wing hardliners who are standing on the sides looking whether to go along with him or not, and he might need those numbers to have the kind of majority that he needs to get his business going.
Fair point. Ambassador, Maroof sort of, using sort of diplomatic language to make a simple point that, is he going to be a puppet in the hands of the military? Can Imran, more importantly, contribute meaningfully either to the improvement or the deterioration of ties with India, or are we in some sense going to be agnostic to whatever happens? I mean, can he make a meaningful difference either to improve relations or to worsen them?
I think it really depends on what aspect of relations we are talking about. It's difficult for him actually to do anything in the military foreign affairs side. But it is also very important to remember always that usually it's the army that generates terrorist incidents, etc. And it's very important that Imran Khan is able to at least prevent a major incident happening in India. But if I may just come back 1 minute to the economic aspect, because that's really important, and I think it will catch up with Imran Khan and his government quite quickly. Pakistan has been put on the FATF grey list. That means that there is something systemically wrong in the inability and the unwillingness of that government to check terror financing. That itself has a whole set of implications for relations with India. At the same time, Pakistan has the foreign loans constitute 25% of its gross domestic product. It has an annual debt servicing liability of more than $8 billion. If Pakistan goes to the IMF, it may decide to devalue its currency, but the IMF will also demand that all the contracts signed with China for the CEPC have to become transparent. At least the IMF has to be informed on the terms of their contracts. So while China is the biggest friend and investor in Pakistan, it is also because of Chinese loans that it has becoming more and more economically unviable for that government. So the situation today is that Pakistan has falling behind Bangladesh on all economic and social indices, and that is really a falling back. It's a regression that no country can sustain for a very long time with unemployment rates as they are in Pakistan. So there will certainly be a lot of domestic turmoil which Imran Khan and his government will have to deal with, and they have to make sure that they do not fall into the trap of some kind of incident with India in order to distract attention from their dire economic situation.
It's a good point you're making on the dire economic point and the equation with China, because Imran Khan himself has called for more of these deals and these arrangements to be made public, something that China has resisted. So one will have to see how he plays that. Army will have a role to play as well. So it's an interesting dynamic there. But Shailesh, how do you think should India respond to this outcome politically, diplomatically? What should India's response be? I mean, is it best to be in wait and watch mode, maintain status quo? Will Modi trust Imran Khan?
I think wait and watch is the appropriate measure. I'm not very optimistic anything is going to change on the foreign policy side, specifically with India. India is going into an election cycle. In my view, the election cycle has already begun as of last week on the Indian side. So there's very little appetite for anyone in India, in the Indian leadership, to make any overtures to Pakistan. Dialogue at this juncture is only prone to have downside risk, very minimal upside risk. So when Khan made the comment that if India steps forward, they will too, well, I don't think India is about to step forward. So that's not an avenue of pursuit. Beyond that, though, what should India do? Wait and watch, because it's not evident what Khan can actually do. As others have mentioned on the panel already, the army controls everything when it comes to foreign policy. When it comes to relations with the US, they will be the final decision maker. The worst thing Imran Khan can do right now is freelance on India policy. His predecessors have faced very bad consequences when they tried to take control of their own of India policy on behalf of the country. So the question then becomes, is Khan going to become a mouthpiece for the army, or will he take a backseat, and is the army the institution that India should ultimately negotiate or deal with and just bypass the civilian government altogether? And to find out the answer to that, you have to wait a considerable amount of time. But again, I'm not very optimistic much is going to change on the India side. And as others have also pointed out, the bigger question that's facing Khan right now is not India, it's the economy. And what is he going to do about the Chinese loan situation, which have become a huge problem for the country? And is he going to negotiate an IMF package to help them?
That's a fair point you're making, but before I come to you, Maruf, Ambassador Deo, I want to come back to you to address an important point, which is what Imran Khan said today, called for dialogue and trade ties with India. Also, Shailesh pointed out, also said that for every one step that India takes, he's willing to take two. So, can this be a fresh start, or are the political stakes too high for India to be receptive to these overtures of Imran Khan?
I would say the timing is all wrong. India has gone into an election cycle, and we are unlikely to make any great gestures. Also, sometimes we have to assume that it is also for Pakistan to make a gesture. Let's see what they can do. They are constantly offering to take two steps if India takes one step. Well, let's have one step from Pakistan, and maybe India will take two steps.
That's a fair point, Anita. And Maruf, the reason why India has to be cautious is because in that very press conference, after saying all that he did, of course, he went back to the same tried and tested rhetoric on Kashmir, citing it as a core issue, talking about human rights violations, saying that Kashmir needs to be resolved. So, how are we to read these overtures really?
Well, you'd asked this question earlier at the start of the show. And firstly, of course, I agree very much with Ambassador Neelam Deo. But you'd asked this question that, is Pakistan, Imran Khan anti-India? Well, firstly, I think Imran Khan's selling point is that he is pro-Pakistan. If anything matters to him beyond I, me and myself is Pakistan. And so therefore, he enjoys that kind of USP, at least until now. And let's see how it goes from here. But also equally important is for us to understand that Imran Khan cannot himself take even the one step or two steps unless it is choreographed at Rawalpindi and not in Islamabad. And when you talk of Kashmir and people in his manifesto, some of the issues on national security that he has addressed, it's basically fairly very much echoing the army's point of view, whether it's the UN Security Council resolutions on Kashmir, whether it's talks on the terms and conditions that are very clearly defined, and Pakistan wants to define those terms and conditions. But quite frankly, I mean, this is the point I make, and it might sound a bit harsh. Pakistan needs to engage with India. India doesn't need to engage with Pakistan. India is doing pretty well for itself. It is getting on with its business, and those who are very paranoid about the fact that these two nuclear neighbors should talk, really, quite frankly, even if they talk, it doesn't mean hostilities are going to go down, because the core of Pakistan's identity, unfortunately, over the last 70 years has been defined by anti-Indianism, and Kashmir is a symbol of that. And if Imran Khan has the magic wand that he thinks he can resolve the Kashmir issue, God bless him, but I don't think that problem is going to go away in a hurry, not in our generation. What Imran Khan can do and what the army can do is to bring down tempers and have a functional neighborly relationship where we focus on other issues where there is the possibility of building better ties, such as trade, such as people-to-people interaction, and most importantly, if Pakistan needs our advice and help, I don't think they're going to be asking for it, but if they need, we can help them set up some institutions which can give Pakistan the semblance of a functional state.
Okay, fair point. I take that point. Very important point that you're making. But running out of time, Raza Rumi, does he have the political power to crack down on terror? That's the bottom line from India's point of view, and that will always be an obvious precondition to talks. Will Imran Khan, having backed the Taliban, have the political power intent to crack down on terror? Because if that's not the case, then this is going to be another false start.
Look, Imran Khan and Pakistan, well, let's start with Pakistani state. We have been fighting with terrorist groups. The military has been engaged in major operations against the Pakistani Taliban. Yes, we can say that there is selectivity. The groups, for example, which are pitted against India have not been really touched or still have a free pass. But that's besides the point. No state can take on all the groups which have been nurtured due to Pakistan's policies over the 3 decades in one go. It has to be an incremental and step-by-step approach. And I think that Imran Khan, because he's enjoying a good relationship with the military, perhaps can play that particular role where he can argue, because of Pakistan's economic crises that we face, we have a balance of payments crisis, the rupee is in a free fall, the rate of dollars has increased by 30% in the last few weeks. Imran Khan will have a very strong case in talking to the military about finding a way of reducing the role of terrorists, either infiltration or presence along the borders, along the line of control. And let's hope that it goes away. But remember, Imran Khan is not the only player who will have the veto power in this. The military, as I said, has a very strong role. Pakistani media is now a very strong player in all of this, and other political parties. Not unlike India, the moment Imran will say such a thing, the opposition, and a strong opposition, is going to tell him, hey, you sell out. You are selling out on Kashmir. So he has to do a very tightrope walking. This is not a piece of cake for him, because there are more than 100 parliamentarians elected in the National Assembly that belong to the opposition parties. He has a very formidable opposition at home. So it is tightrope walking, and it is too early to predict about his India policy or what lies in store. What I can say is that he's keen to make a fresh start.
Is keen to make a fresh start. Running out of time, last question to you, Shailesh, 1 minute for you. India desperately needs to press ahead with its own development agenda. With this development in Pakistan, will Pakistan be an irritant? Can it potentially distract India from its own reform agenda, from its own development agenda, or that's unlikely to happen?
Likely to happen, but as others have mentioned, if this election yields some kind of increase in terrorist events, cross-border events, which have happened in the past. You've seen in the past when a new leadership comes in Pakistan, the army does do something to teach them a lesson, then yes, it can be a problem. But outside of that, I don't see this at all impacting India. As others have said, India doesn't necessarily need Pakistan. Pakistan needs India. India's development agenda is not Pakistan-centric. It has absolutely nothing to do with its neighbor.
That's an important point you're making. India doesn't have so much at stake. We don't need talks with Pakistan as much as they need. So this development unlikely to alter India's development agenda. That's the important takeaway really for our viewers here. Ambassador Deo, Shailesh, Maroof and Raza, really appreciate you taking the time out and joining us with that rich perspective on this edition of the India development debate. Hopefully Imran Khan, while he may not be able to resolve contentious issues, hopefully he will do his bit to diffuse the tension, use his so-called charm and the fan following that he has to some extent in India to do some good and diffuse the tension and restore normalcy and stability to the state, to the country of Pakistan. That itself will go a long way in bringing stability to the region at large.